Lewis Hamilton's post-race bombshell after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix has dragged Ferrari straight into the harshest spotlight of the season, because this was not just another moment of frustration from a driver stuck in the midfield. This was the voice of a seven-time world champion laying bare in brutal honesty why his first year in red is slipping further away from the dream that had been sold to him and to the Tifosi. All weekend the signs had pointed towards redemption. Hamilton had topped FP2 with authority, finding a rhythm around the unforgiving streets of Baku that reminded everyone of his prime. He spoke with conviction, and for the first time in weeks there was a sense that Ferrari had given him something capable of fighting at the sharp end. The atmosphere shifted, belief surged back into the Scarlet Garage, and for a moment the critics were silent. But then came Sunday, and the brutal truth was exposed. The 2-kilometer main straight in Baku is the longest on the calendar, the very place where horsepower and hybrid deployment dictate destiny, and it was there that Hamilton's SF25 betrayed him. Rivals opened their DRS, surged past, and made him look as though he was racing in a slower category. Every time he planted his foot out of turn 16, he expected the Ferrari to respond, to punch down the straight with the force of a top contender. But the power never came. A failure in the hybrid energy deployment system meant he was missing vital kilowatt, and in Formula One, that is the difference between attacking and defending, between fighting for a podium and fading into the midfield. For Hamilton, who has built his career on battling wheel to wheel, being powerless in that moment was unbearable. The contrast with the promise of Friday made the disappointment all the more savage. Ferrari had split their setups, gambling with different downforce levels, and Hamilton's higher rear wing had given him stability through the technical middle sector. It was a decision that had worked, a decision that had put him on top of the timesheets and convinced everyone watching that Ferrari were finally about to deliver. But in the race, when it truly mattered, the promise collapsed in on itself. Instead of fighting with Verstappen, Russell, or even Norris, Hamilton found himself trapped in the midfield. His mirrors filled with cars he had outpaced with ease just a day before. The Tifosi, who had dared to dream of redemption, were once again confronted with the sight of Ferrari failing on the very basics, and that is what makes Hamilton's statement so shocking. He was clear that this wasn't about a mistake behind the wheel. It wasn't about a lack of confidence or preparation. He felt ready. He felt the pace was there. And yet, it was ripped away from him by the machinery beneath him. For a driver of his stature, it was a devastating blow. And he did not hide his anger. He made it clear that Ferrari must work with more precision, that weekends cannot keep slipping away through operational and technical errors. It was a bombshell, because it was not just an expression of frustration. It was a demand for accountability, a warning to Ferrari that their champion will not tolerate mediocrity. Lewis Hamilton's words after the Azerbaijan Grand Prix were not just another frustrated comment in the heat of the moment. They were a thunderclap that exposed Ferrari's deepest flaws in the most painful way possible. The timing of his statement is what gives it such power. He came into the weekend brimming with confidence, with a kind of fire that had been missing in recent months. He topped FP2, driving the SF25 with precision and pace that stunned the paddock. For the first time since joining Ferrari, it looked like Hamilton had cracked the code of a car that has too often felt alien to his style. The Tifosi allowed themselves to dream again, convinced that their new hero was finally about to deliver a result worthy of his reputation. When the lights went out on Sunday, that dream quickly turned into another chapter of despair. The qualifying session was the first red flag, literally and figuratively. Ferrari sent Hamilton out on the wrong tyre compound at the most critical moment, choosing the unpredictable C6 softs when most of the grid, including his teammate Charles Leclerc, were on mediums. Hamilton admitted afterwards that he had argued for the mediums, knowing they were the stronger option, but was told there was neither the time to bring them into the right window nor the fuel to support another run. That single decision sealed his fate, and he was knocked out in Q2, eliminated by Leclerc himself, who managed to scrape through. This was Ferrari being beaten by Ferrari. For the fans, it reinforced the fear that their beloved team remains its own worst enemy, trapped in a cycle of wasted opportunities and unforced errors. Hamilton's fury, however, carries a different weight. It's not the fury of resignation. It is the fury of belief. He was angry because he knew this weekend should have been different, because he had seen the potential in the car, because he had felt the connection that has so often been missing since he joined Ferrari. That is what makes his statement so powerful. It is not a driver making excuses, it is a champion demanding more, insisting that Ferrari rise to the standards required to compete at the very front. His bombshell is both a critique and a challenge, and it forces Ferrari to confront a truth they have tried to avoid, that they are failing to give one of the greatest drivers in history the tools to succeed. The implications of this cannot be overstated. Hamilton is not just another name on the grid. He is a global icon, a driver whose legacy is already etched in the history books. For him to stand before the cameras and expose Ferrari's failures in such stark terms sends shockwaves through the paddock. Rivals smell weakness. The media sharpen their knife, and the tifosi begin to question whether the dream of Hamilton conquering in red will ever come true. Inside Ferrari, the tension is palpable. Vasseur can defend the decisions and insist that positives remain, but the reality is clear. They are running out of excuses, and yet Hamilton's words also carry hope. His anger shows that he still believes, that he still cares enough to demand better, that he is not giving up. He knows that the SF25 has flashes of pace, that the potential is there if Ferrari can only unlock it, and that the coming regulation changes could give them a fresh start. His fury is a demand for higher standards, a refusal to accept mediocrity, and a reminder to Ferrari that he did not come to Maranello to fade into the midfield. He came to fight, to win, and to cement his legacy with the most historic team in Formula One. That is why his statement has been described as a bombshell. It is not just about what happened in Baku. It is about the bigger picture. It is about Ferrari's inability to execute when it matters most, about the wasted opportunities that are piling up, and about the risk of squandering the twilight years of one of the sport's greatest champions. For Hamilton, the message is clear. He is still here to win, still hungry, still ready to fight. But unless Ferrari rise to his level, the dream will remain out of reach. The world is watching. The tifosi are waiting, and after Baku, the pressure on Ferrari has never been greater.